call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Carla, will you call the roll, please?
Robert Mueller.
Here.
Dina Kreitler.
Here.
Jan Bruns.
Here.
Beth Caldwell.
Here.
Stephanie Grumminger. Kelly Fowler.
Here.
Laura Oliver.
Here.
Michael Hankins.
Here.
Jack Dunsey.
Here.
And Joe Steiger. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of the agenda. I had a note from Joe Steiger asking that we put the director's report after the financial report. One of the things, our bylaws that are established in the ordinance that established this Tourism Advisory Committee, it prescribed the order of the agenda, but it does say that we can change it with a vote. And the way it's presented now is the way it's in the ordinance, but we can change it. And I think we'd like to change it permanently where the director's report and the financial report are combined, and it's to be heard after normally the citizens to be heard. The other change that I'd like to make, since this meeting tonight is an official meeting of the Tourism Advisory Committee, yet we as the last meeting we talked about having it as that quarterly meeting also that Stephanie had been holding. I'd like to put the citizens to be heard at the end of the agenda tonight after we close the business meeting. And I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion we so do.
Okay, a second. Jack, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. The next item is the approval of minutes of the previous meeting on June 22nd. Carla handed those out.
I see a change up. I believe that the IDC appropriated only $400 toward the Port Authority.
Okay, for the
ferry webpage.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's $400 and not $450.
I make a motion we approve the minutes as corrected.
Is there a second?
A second.
Gina? Discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, with the revised agenda, Stephanie, if you would give your report.
Certainly. Handed out to you my regular report, a copy of the website report, and then the last page you have all of the advertising that we have currently going on per Jack Donzi's request. Just kind of give a highlight. Number of the visitors to the Welcome Center has decreased 6% for the month of June in comparison to June of 2011. I believe a lot of this has to do with the fact that we are in triple-digit heats, our temperatures. The one benefit that we had this year is that it was warm early, so we had a lot of traffic coming to visit as a result. But now it's too warm, and who wants to walk around 108 degrees outside? Despite this decrease, we are still up 5% year-to-date over 2011. So fortunately, we had that earlier weather in the spring. On the budget report, when you look at marketing expenses for June of 2012 compared to 2011, there is a significant decrease in what we are advertising. As far as the month of June, most of our co-op had already been paid for in the month of May. All of the final expenses were done, so that is not in here. And then just due to we haven't started receiving the invoices for the final part of the year.
Just a question, the revenue that you get, the payback, how long does that lag from when you submit it to when the state returns that money?
It's usually pretty quick.
Because I think we've gotten just a fair amount this year, like 5,000 out of the,
Oh, we've got more than that. On the reimbursement, it won't reflect on here because it's not reflected in my budget.
it's in the general revenue budget.
Right.
And I think I looked at those numbers, and it's fairly low.
It shouldn't be. Our first quarter reimbursement was what, 6,000, Mike?
6,500.
Yeah.
Back from.
That was from last year. I'm talking
But
about this
it
year's.
was
campaign.
the first quarter.
But
of fiscal
it
year
takes
12.
quite a while. For instance, let's just take the second quarter of our fiscal year, which is January, February, March. She can't submit it until sometime in April, when she's got all the money in, and it takes them usually a month and a half, to almost 2 months to send us a check.
They don't do that anymore. It's
They
all
don't?
done electronically now.
Oh, they do it?
So it's much quicker.
Okay,
and it
but she
really
can't
depends.
send it in
When
until,
you pay the invoice, is that when you can send in the request for reimbursement?
No, it's done on a quarterly basis.
yeah.
So
You can
I
only do
just-
it on a quarter.
For example, I just sent, and this is part of my report, I just sent the fourth quarter of fiscal year 12. So fiscal year 12 for them is in the bag, and they start differently. So the first quarter of fiscal year 12 was in last year, but according to, it goes with that, how the fiscal years are so different. But now that they have that, once they received it, they approve it, it's within 2 weeks, because it's all electronic now.
Okay. But she can't send a quarter until it's completed.
I understand. I was looking at the revenue.
And sometimes
stream,
she hasn't, sometimes she hasn't maybe written the check because she's not gotten it right. You know, they haven't sent her the invoice,
Yeah.
even though it fits into that quarter, and she wants to make sure it comes back in that quarter, so that holds it up too.
What do you
Can't-
physically-
can't
Well,
always
I've
be
been able
right on
to
time.
stay up on top of it pretty well this year,
No,
though.
I mean from the vendors. Sometimes they don't.
Oh, no, I've had to chase them down a few times, but
Okay.
I've been getting them as quickly as I possibly can.
Yeah.
But it really depends on when they deposit the check, how long it takes to clear our account, because we have to give a copy of the canceled check
Mhm.
as well. So the expenses for this year are lower, and then also one reason why it might not be low is because January through March, we didn't have very much advertising at all from either the city, the county tax commission, or the co-op, simply because normally people don't travel during that period of
Mhm.
time because the weather's not favorable for driving conditions. So that would be another
I
reason.
mean, you have some that are like 6-month advertising. You're going to do an ad every month for 6 months. Can you submit, you get billed each month, or do you have to wait till the end of the 6 months to be able to bill the state?
Well, when it says within the first 6 months, or I can have the advertising anytime, but it have to depend on what quarter it falls into. And they bill generally, unless I ask differently, they bill me for each occurrence of
Okay.
advertising.
Okay.
That way, if we have one in the first quarter and one in the second quarter, I'll have them billed separate. That way, we don't have to wait till
Good.
the end of the second quarter to request reimbursement. Okay, moving on to the web report. Our website visits, beginning in May, really just jumped. And that is maintained for June. We have still 46%, 44%, almost 60% increase in some areas. And that trend is continuing for July. I looked at July, and we are going to continue this trend, which is great. This means that our advertising is working. The print advertising, we have a little bit of online advertising, so for click-throughs, that is what drives people to the website. And we started advertising approximately mid-April, heavy, and kind of looking at those May numbers is when it really started picking up. So that's really good information to have. It's a good way to test to see. And that's with the direct hits. When people actually type it in on the report, it just shows a slash mark. And we've seen an increase in those numbers. The only place they're going to get visitstjohn.com is based off of our print advertising or any online advertising that we have as a click-through, which we have Missouri Live, Belleville News Democrat, Southeast Missourian, we're online. The Southern Illinoisan, we're online. and the Post-Dispatch. We just started, and I was able to get a really good placement with the Post-Dispatch here just in the past week and a half, where we have a pencil ad that will expand, and it's under the Life and Style section of the Post-Dispatch. Once that goes up, it was supposed to go up on Friday. I haven't had a chance to look to see if it's up, but it was supposed to go, and it's a permanent placement, so it should come up every time you pull up the Life and Style section of stltoday.com.
What's a pencil ad?
A pencil ad, it goes across the top as a banner. It's about the size of a pencil, but when you cursor over it, it expands to a much larger ad, so there's opportunity to get a lot of information in a small space. What's really nice about this particular ad is instead of having it expand over the text, it just moves everything down, so it doesn't cover, it's not in the way of reading, which was what really sold me on it. Because
Yeah.
I can't tell you how annoying that is.
KSDK.com.
Oh, yes.
Every time. And I'm just like, get this out of here. It's covering up what I want to see.
Exactly.
So that's really, really cool.
This one just sets it all down. And we have got that locked in through October 29th, that space. And we can change it once a month. Let's see, so the co-op grant, fiscal year 13 co-op grant has been approved. The grant was funded in full. The matching grant is $24,779.84. With the delay in the governor signing the budget, a lot of the advertisers were working with all of the entities in the state of Missouri because we couldn't drop our advertising until we had this set in a way. So I've already put all the first quarter advertising out there. It was all due back in May. We couldn't send it because we didn't have a signed budget. So we were able to get into all the advertising that we wanted to get, which that was the AAA and the group travel bank management going on Faith. And I'm already working on the second quarter with Kim. With that, fiscal year 12's done, fourth quarter reimbursement request has been sent, and I have started working on the final report that I have to send to the state. I believe that one is due December 1st. We are due to be recertified. That application is supposed to be on the website in September. That'll be due November 1st, so I will have to work on that as quickly as possible. And then at the same time, we have to start keeping in mind what we want to do for the Q4, I'm sorry, not Q4, fiscal year 14, because we will have to start working on that application. Probably December will be the right time to start working on that one, to kind of give you an idea of how quick and how far ahead we have to work with the state on the cooperative grant. And then on the final is this, just all the advertising that we have scheduled between now to the end of the city's fiscal year 12. I was able to get a few of these to run in through October, so we're paying for it up front here in fiscal year 12. But some of these will go over, since we have that space between having an approved budget and not having an approved budget. I was informed by Barton that I cannot contract for any October, November, December advertising until I have a final approved budget from the Board of Aldermen. Once I get that, it's going to be too late to do any October. So anywhere I could, I tried to rearrange it a little bit so we have some crossover into October. So we're not completely without advertising in what is pretty much our busiest time of year. Does anyone have any questions?
Anyone? Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Let's go on to, I guess, old business. Ferry website, we're still not there on that. Seems like it's difficult to get a one-page website set up, but we will continue to push that so that it makes it much easier for everyone involved with the visitors that are asking about it.
What is the URL for that?
There is none. They don't have a website at this point. We're trying
You
to...
don't even have an address?
They haven't established anything at this time.
Yeah.
The money's been appropriated.
Yeah,
but
what
they
we're trying to
haven't-
get set up is a one-pager where they could on a daily basis say either the ferry's running, the ferry's not running, and have the information about times, money, things like that. Currently, they call Dina, they call you.
Actually,
and
if they call the ferry website or the ferry phone number, that number is forwarded to ours, so we get a bulk of those calls, just based off that.
Yeah. So what we'd really like to do is have them have their own website and have that where everybody can get it online.
Is the ferry even running right now?
It is.
It is?
It was today,
Okay.
and I've actually been going down to look at it daily, because I know we're not worried about the water being too low,
Right.
which is really strange. But no, I've been watching that on a daily basis.
Anything else on that? Scheduling of press release training?
I'm still trying to get with Tish. She was out of town with she was in DC for the food festival. I don't know the proper name of that. She came back and she had the county fair. And I have sent an email to her to request a meeting to where I could actually sit down and just talk with her, get the information. I believe she's out of town again. I noticed she had a status on Facebook that it looked like she's out in Illinois somewhere today. So I'm waiting to hear back from her so I can actually sit down and have a meeting and get that done. Scheduled.
Update on the 2013 new event planning. Did you have an opportunity to have a meeting yet on that?
Stephanie and I have sent a couple emails back and forth. We talked about scheduling a meeting that week in August when the cafe is closed and I actually have time to do
Okay,
something.
could you set that, when you set that up, please let me know too.
Okay.
I'd like to come to that. Is that in like, what part of the month?
We're closed the 12th through the 19th,
Okay.
so week after that.
Okay, any other old business to report? New business, it was requested that we get an update on the National Park Service study, and I think Martin's going to give that.
Okay. Rather than running the risk of everyone knowing what the National Park Service study is, I'm going to give you a very brief history. In around 2001, a group of forward-thinking St. Genevieve citizens got the idea that it might be in the interest of the city to approach the National Park Service and find out how St. Genevieve, given its historic and architectural resources, may be considered for a national park. So they did the investigation and discovered that there was a general interest in that, but that it would require an act of Congress in order to get that done. So congressmen and senators were contacted, they were educated, been made aware that there were several trips to Washington in 18th century garb, so that they were lobbying, and all of that came to fruition with a proposal by Senator Bond to fund a study of St. Genevieve for the purpose of setting up a national park district. The bond effort did not result in legislation, but it began to interest a significant number of representatives and senators, and in 2006, a bill sponsored by Congressman Carnahan was passed authorizing the formal name St. Genevieve County National Historic Site Study. So for the past 6 years, under that legislative authority and congressional funding, the National Park Service has been looking at St. Genevieve County. And by all indications, they have discovered significant resources, as we all know, that would warrant a report to Congress about the establishment of a national park district. For months, I am told, maybe longer than months, years, and nobody quite knew what was going on. About 8 months ago, the planner in charge of this effort came to St. Genevieve and met with some of the stakeholders. And I think for the first time, we were given a fairly definitive timeline. The most significant part of that is that they will be, or have completed at least the study aspect of their report, and they now want to vet their findings by meeting with the stakeholders, and that will happen next month, and then having a second meeting with elected officials at the state and federal level, which will occur at a national park site. And the purpose of this is to decide what recommendation to make. So I think we're beyond the point of whether a recommendation is going to be made, and to the point of the scope of that recommendation. Do you cover the entire county? Do you take part of the county? Do you take just the city? There are all sorts of different possibilities as to how this could be structured. It is unlikely that St. Genevieve County or city is going to be a national park a la Williamsburg or Yorktown, where our streets are filled with national park personnel. But I do believe what is likely is they are going to establish a presence here. That presence may include the acquisition of historic sites and structures. It will likely include at least the presence of a full-time National Park Service employee or more. We don't know. But over the next several months, that decision will be made. And once it's made, it isn't over, because the decision to implement their recommendation will require another act of Congress. And that legislation might take another couple of years to work its way through the process. But we're about at the end of the study and at the beginning of the next level of work. But all indications are that at least this is a popular subject, because the number of co-sponsors on that 2006 authorization or authorizing legislation was large. Lots of people wanted to be associated with it. Hopefully, lots of people would want to be associated with its implementation. That's all I know.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. As Martin said, the study is quite involved. First, they had to do a significant study, which took a year. Then they have to do a sustainability, feasibility, and management study, which are the last three that they're doing now. And the recommendations they can come up with is, it sounds like they're going to come up with one that at least they're involved, but it could be a national park site, it could be a national heritage area. There's 3 or 4 different ways they could come up with a recommendation. So we'll just have to see when they come and give us their preliminary report what it looks like. Any questions of Martin?
The only thing that I want to add, and I found it interesting, is these meetings will not be public meetings. And they're not public meetings under specific, I didn't bring the name of the federal act that constrains them from having public meetings at this point. But they can't open this process to the public until it reaches a certain level.
But once they get their recommendation, that there is a recommendation to move forward in some way, I think we're going to have to mobilize here in the community to push both politically and just from trying to get it implemented. Because as Martin said, it's not done until they budget it, authorize it, and appropriate it. Okay. Committee reports. Electronic committee.
We have been revising the event submission form. This is all for one person.
Oh, this is all one
Yeah.
person?
Okay. Okay. So, with Steph and Dina and then Bob's suggestions, we modified a few things on the events submission form. So the one you have in front of you now is the one we're proposing to use. A couple things that we'd like to change is to have it fillable and submittable online. And it will be automatically emailed to a designated email address at the Welcome Center. Do you at the Welcome Center right now, you are the ones that put the events on the calendar?
We're
Or
one
no?
of, there's a few people that are able to, but I think Chuck has done the majority of the groups, but we do as well.
Okay.
Going,
But they
moving
come to-
forward, it would come to the Welcome Center.
Okay. Also, with people submitting photographs, there was some discussion on that. So we just put the little disclaimers there at the bottom that they're telling us they have permission to use the photograph and that they've read the guidelines, which is the next page that you have there. And the only thing, Bob, that I think we changed from what you had given us was under submission tips number 7. You had that if the event is to be held on multiple non-sequential dates, such as 3 lectures on 3 non-sequential dates during a month, submit an event submission for each event. We were of the feeling that if it was the same exact event 3 times, on the submission form, under when it says dates and times, and the same information could be put on those 3 dates, including the other dates. So if it's 3 lectures, for example, on August 1st, August 15th, August 20th, each spot on the calendar that they would click on would have all 3 dates. So they could say, oh, this is on August 15th and I'd really like to go, but I can't make it. Oh, look, it says here there's another one on the 20th I can go to. We thought that if there was multiple events and someone had to fill out a form for each event, they might be discouraged from doing that, from spending the time to actually do that. So I think that was the only thing we did there. The next page is a screenshot of the front page of Visit St. John with, at the top, we'd like it to not obviously be wrapped in green, but match the other links up there to submit an event. That would be a pretty obvious place to put it. That's one of the first places you look when you go to the website. The other thing we've talked about is on the right side of that page, links to the Herald and Sun-Times News, and also Don Pritchard asked us to do stjohntv.com, so we'll get a button, a logo from them as well. And on your last page, you've got the top button is a link that's currently on the Sun-Times News St. John page. Stephanie Greminger has also sent that to the Herald, hoping they'll put it on their site. And this is the Sun-Times logo and the Herald logo once they approve it. And then Don told me they do have a logo on the St. John TV website that we can use as well. And we thought those could just be lined up on the right side of the page there.
This is a way to get those other sites pointed to visitstjohn.com, and vice versa if they want to go to the Herald, the Sun-Times, or St. Genevieve Community Access Television. Some of those sites that get higher up in the list when you Google and Visit St. John, and trying to see if we can move Visit St. John up to the top. You know.
How large were these buttons going to be?
That, I don't know.
Because
Steph, I think, was...
If we put that up, what it's going to wind up doing is some are going to be below the fold, quote unquote.
I'd suggest you talk to Chuck to see what he can do. I don't know that you have to have them that big.
No,
Well,
I
that's
don't.
what I was
I don't know
wondering
that
is-
this was. I don't think this was the actual size.
Okay, well, that was the question that came up just by looking at it, is it would set up, and then who gets top spot, who gets bottom spot. I could see it just causing a problem.
Well, one
Unless
of
we
the-
can do it like a small, like a Facebook icon, like little squares. That way they'd all be even.
In a row.
Yes.
That way they're all in the same row.
Yeah, no one's above the other. And, well, there's a lot to be said. I mean, there's a whole field of study of what's above the fold when we pull a web page up.
Yeah.
And obviously, anything that's above the fold is, that's what you don't have to scroll down to know that.
That's what
But,
everybody sees.
this is prime space to have, so if we wanted to have equal representation.
I think you
That
have
was my
room
other
down on the
question.
bottom of the current page. Just
Okay.
down to the bottom of the current page above that little thing where we have all the.
We have all the community groups.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think you all should talk about with the electronic committee, whether we still want to have all those on there. Because not all organizations are represented, but that's something you all can talk about and come up with a recommendation. But I think the event form that's on there now kind of gives a misrepresentation that it's a news release kind of thing as opposed to an event. And I think we want people to use this. We want to get them in early. Once you're ready, if you're in agreement with pursuing this, when you launch it, I think we ought to do some advertising in the newspaper, or an article in the newspaper about organizations. We have a list of a lot of the not-for-profits and major sponsors of groups. We ought to send them this. We can do it electronically, send it in the mail, so that they know to fill these things out.
So will anything and everything be approved? I mean, does it,
That's why there's guidelines on here. I think, we didn't talk about quilting bees and stuff like that, are not things that are going to go on the tourism.
Tourist-related activities.
Related activities.
All events will be approved or denied by the Welcome Center.
Yep.
We
Okay.
reserve the right
Yep.
not to post events we deem inappropriate.
okay.
Personal events, birthday parties, or weddings are not appropriate submissions.
Is there a timeline, for instance, if you have an event coming, do you need, something for August, do you need to get it in before July?
60 days is what we've always requested that on the event.
And that's it, 60 days?
Well, really, for major signature events, we'd like to have them 18 months in advance.
That would be nice.
So if someone, this is July the 23rd, so if someone has something in September the 5th, they're out of luck.
Not necessarily. You put them on, or you have put them on. What we want to do is get people, encourage them, push them, make sure that they know that the further out they can have this, or in front of their event, the more advertising they get on it.
And one of the reasons why I ask this is because you have a group of people that are going to have to view this. You're putting a lot of responsibility on them for a very quick time.
Who's going to review it?
Well, they're going to send it to
To
Stephanie, and
Stephanie.
she says, she's going to get it, she says, see, I don't know about this. Should I contact the committee?
No,
She doesn't have to do that?
No, she gets to make that decision.
makes that
She gets to make the decision by herself? Okay, then that's no problem. Because it would be a problem if you had to get a group of people
Yeah,
together.
no, I don't think that's what we want to do.
Okay.
If there gets to be a problem with the guidelines, I'd have to ask that you come back to us and we'll look at changing the guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty good idea of what a tourist event is and what a non-tourist event is. Obviously a yard sale, unless it's the 61-mile yard sale, which we don't advertise, but we do have a traffic warning on our website. Or we did, I'll have to follow up
It's
on that
also
one.
on the website, on this calendar.
Okay. Our travel advisory, but, I mean, outside of that, I kind of have a pretty good idea of what is and what is not.
And we'd like to encourage people to submit photos with their event thing. It's always good advertising.
One at a time.
Yeah.
My email is limited, and I can only receive emails on a certain size. And one photo at a time would be the request. If they want to send additional photos separately, they would need to be done separately in separate emails.
I would think for putting it on the event calendar, only one photo. Do you normally put more than one on an event calendar page?
If I have the time to put an event on visitmo.org, which would be the biggest reason to get something to me 60 days in advance, I can put multiple photos up. And that any photos, please have them be quote-unquote pretty photos. And that's actually by the advice of the State of Missouri marketing team. So, whenever you use a photo, make sure you don't have someone taking a big bite out of a sandwich in a corner. You want it to be pretty.
Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I have permission to use this, submit this photo. If Stephanie thinks that this is a really great photo, and she has an ad coming up, and it's pretty much in advance, do you think this allows her I mean, she'd have to contact the person. because
I
she
would,
is-
to be sure, I would
I
contact.
would contact, I
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Does she have to get a second release then?
Yeah, this photo is only for the events page or the events calendar. is
Right,
what-
but you need to keep in mind though, anything that you sent to be put on a website, so like if I put it on visitmo.com,
Mhm.
or if I put it on the visitstjohn.com, that photo can be taken. I mean, all someone has to do
Anybody can
is
do it.
right click and copy
Yeah,
paste.
that's what I'm saying, so,
But we have no way of protecting the
no, you
photo.
can't protect it, but if she wants to, you're gonna have her have a second form. She says, boy, this is a great photo. I've got an ad coming up, I wanna use it. It's okay for her to go ahead and do that as far as we're
We
concerned.
do that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've done that a lot.
Quite
Because sometimes the photos submitted by Bob Mueller are pretty darn good, you know, and you might wanna,
Oh, we have,
Oh,
I
I was
had
gonna
kind
say,
of,
actually, the majority of the photos I use are from Bob Mueller.
but we also have a
But I'm
full
just
consent
saying,
form
you
as
know.
to how we deal with it.
Right,
too.
and I don't use his on any online advertising.
okay.
Uh,
No, I mean for like a magazine or a paper or something like that.
Oh, yeah, no, that,
Okay.
yeah.
It's
I mean,
just,
it would-
it's
it would
just good
create
business to
consistency,
get.
because if you had an
Right.
ad coming out and it was in, you know, it was a pretty good photo and it was, you know, I don't know what, you know, Christmas walk or whatever, and she has an ad going out and she used it in that, it would be consistency, so you'd say, oh, I saw that online, I'm seeing it in the newspaper, it would help them coordinate things.
Right,
That's all I'm saying.
Perhaps we
Okay.
ought to just get set up a consent form that you can deal with people on.
that would work.
Couple of points. The right-click thing, you can watermark photographs, so if you copy them, they automatically have some
Really?
disabling on it.
I didn't do that.
Just 50% says copyright St. Genevieve. Big letters all the way across the photo, so they can't use it.
How do you watermark?
It's part of the software. It's your browser,
Is it
photo retouching software,
photo retouching software? That's good to know.
like Photoshop.
Yeah, I mean, the concern,
Oh, I can't afford Photoshop.
None of us hardly can.
the concern was that when you put stuff on Facebook or Twitter, it just throws it out to anybody and
Mhm.
everybody.
Listen, can I make a quick comment? Because I have a vested interest in what I'm about to say. I know this is not a website analysis meeting, because those can take days, but I kind of have a problem with the wording of the first sentence of the second paragraph.
Which one are you talking about?
Overnight in one of our historic bed and breakfasts, or if you prefer, one of our more modern inns or hotels.
In other words, you're gonna tell me that, I know I'm on the air, but you're gonna tell me that the Hotel St. Genevieve is more modern than the Inn St. Jim? I don't think so.
You know, I'm just gonna tell you, the last Thursday of the month, changes that anybody wants on the website, go to Stephanie before that, and she makes a decision, unless it's a major change.
Would that be considered a major change though? I mean,
No.
that's something I would bring to you,
I-
since the wording was
Are
approved
those
by the
links?
committee.
I would say if you're concerned about something,
those are
bring it to
links.
bring it to the electronic committee, or the web page, what do we call that thing? It's the electronic, no, it was the web page group, it's you,
Website
Martin,
committee?
yeah, the website committee. If you have a,
Website oversight.
yeah, website oversight committee. So if you have a question on something, go to, I think it's Dina, Stephanie, and Beth, and Martin, and yourself.
I think it's the implication that the bed and breakfasts are somehow inferior because they aren't modern.
Right.
Is what concerns you.
Right.
And I would object to use the word overnight as a verb.
I do too.
That as a verb doesn't make sense until you read the next sentence and you see cruise as a verb.
I thought that was actually what you were pointing out was the
Yeah, that's what,
overnight.
No.
yeah.
It is the last Thursday, isn't it?
Yes,
Last Thursday.
last Thursday.
So do we need to make a motion to,
Yeah. One of the things, I guess, if we read our bylaws too, the aldermen have kind of constrained us. They tell us we have to, when we make recommendations, it has to be a motion. So I guess we need a motion from the electronic committee to change the form, adopt those guidelines, and
So we'd like to make a motion to recommend to adopt the revised event form and guidelines, making it a fillable and submittable form online, and adding the submit event link to the front page of visitstgen.com.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All approve?
Aye.
Guess I should have said say aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Now, was that just for the event submission form?
Yes.
So,
Okay.
And guidelines.
And guidelines.
Yes.
to the next
Together.
motion. We'd also like to make a motion to recommend to add buttons or links to visitstgen.com, the front page for the St. John Herald, the Sun-Times News, and stjohntv.com, pending approval of the logos that will be used for those links.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Just a question, does that mean they will put a visitstgen.com button on their webpage?
Sun-Times News already has it. We are working on the Herald. The Herald has a link on their links page. Steph was going to talk to Toby about the button that you see on your handout. And then we'll talk to Don as well about St. John TV.
I was just going to suggest waiting for approval for all of these might be a good idea before approving. Do you have approval before we have approval? That was just my only thought.
Oh, sorry, I thought I said pending approval of...
Oh, our stuff is just a recommendation.
Okay.
We make a motion to recommend that you do something.
Okay.
Even though we'll work with you
That's fine.
on
That was
it.
the only question that I had.
Okay.
Was,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Anything else?
Don't think so.
Let's see, the media print committee. You guys have anything?
The print?
Mhm.
Yeah. We're working on, we have to add a B&B to the visitor's guide, and Stephanie has gotten word from Triangle Inn that they would like equal coverage as well in the brochure. So Jan and Stephanie and I have been discussing, you know, it's in all fairness that they should get the same amount of coverage, and then as well Wilmore Court would also. So we need to, she has taken it to Kim's attention, who, the graphic designer, to tell us, because we're more or less fitting 3 more in the same amount of space, how much space can each B&B and hotel have in order to fit in the same area. So she's going to take that to her and have her come back and say, okay, you can have so many characters or words along with your photo to make it fair and even for everybody, so no one stands out any more than anyone else. That's the main change that has to be made. The other ones are just minor. I believe she said it would cost $600 for that change, to change that.
that would, yes, the other change that we just did, we've been billed for. So this would be just,
For the next quarter update or something?
for that last update we did on the website. We paid for that.
Yeah.
And then this will be additional costs on top of that. But it's, what we paid is in fiscal year 12, that's going to be in fiscal year 13. So it was about 600, as long as there's not too many issues. We're trying to figure that out. I sent her an email and she responded about, how many characters we could fit and what we could do, maybe do with the photos. And then she'll let me know. I haven't heard back as far as, she hasn't had a chance to work on it, but she knows of it.
And then we'll go around to all the merchants, everybody in here, and get the current information, make sure everything in here is current, or if they wanted to change, if their, website or whatever has changed, so we have all accurate information. Here's a
Are you
couple.
working on a form or anything that businesses can fill out?
We will.
Yeah.
We will. once we, well, especially on the lodging, once we know how many they can have. And then, yeah, because I received that one that you sent, requesting some information. You know, obviously, we won't, you wanted some of this at the Welcome Center, not
Yeah,
necessarily in here.
I think, you know, business could give you information like their operating hours and things like that. If you
They
could-
change
I know.
so much.
But I think the other thing we've
Yeah,
got to do is
still.
educate businesses that if there is a change, they need to get to you.
Yeah,
And-
with that in mind, that's a grand idea, and you do have that to a certain extent, for the wineries are pretty consistent, and the historic homes are pretty consistent, but I have businesses that won't even open for a week. And we don't know about it until we've sent someone down there, and they come back and say, well, that place is closed. You know, it's
And
just
part of
kind
that, I
like
think,
work.
is it's got to be an education on our part, too. This is some free advertising.
I agree,
And-
but having angry visitors coming back, I mean, that's hard on my staff.
Has it already been decided that's the format, or have we looked at a booklet format or something a little less cumbersome than that? Or is it way too expensive to do the booklet, or something different to allow for more pages, to fit more businesses?
Well, I think, my opinion, just for our booklet would be more cumbersome, I mean, because this is mainly for a visitor to come and get around town. So I think they like the idea of being able to open it and get a map and follow the map around. I don't think we want it too many pages or too wordy, or for that reason, just for the visitor, on a visitor's standpoint. But I think it would cost a lot to actually change the format, wouldn't it?
It would cost, and then the printing also would be
It's more
a
expensive.
significant increase.
Most people that have a book kind of thing also do sell a lot of advertising in it.
Right, which is
So
something
they-
that we can do down the
Yeah,
road.
but that takes a lot of effort
Right.
to do that. I mean, I keep collecting samples of other people's
Mhm.
books, and a lot of them do books rather than this. But I think, Jan, you were the one who said this is kind of a one-time
Yeah.
throwaway kind of thing.
And I have to say, it's a single-use item, right? And it's a brand-new introduction every time it goes out to a new visitor. And feedback I get is that people are very pleased with it. But the flip side of that is, when something like a new B&B starts up, we're hamstrung with, how do we squeeze yet one more thing in?
And we were having that issue with the art galleries.
Like
And then with the restaurants.
Right.
With this last print we had.
Yeah. I
Trying
mean,
to
some of
squeeze
it
things
is
in.
8-point type.
And something we may have to decide what we put in there. I mean,
Right.
a lot of places just list the address.
Yeah.
No phone number, no website, other than, certain things where this is just what it is. And we may have to get to some of that to fit everything in.
So we're hoping either by the next meeting or possibly the one, September, to actually have like a page to show you all of, once Kim redoes it, to see what it would look like before we
When
put
do
it
you
in.
plan to give Kim final, to do
To
the
give her the
design?
final information,
Yeah.
it would not happen until probably the end of October. I'm going to wait to do that until we're in the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Um,
So that's what we've got to shoot for in terms of getting the information together.
Right.
And you have plenty of inventory to carry you through that time?
Hey, maybe if you have many more places to add, you can't do equal sizing to everybody. You might have to make some decisions. I mean, it's,
Well, shouldn't everyone in the same group, like all listings for restaurants should all be the same size, and all listings for lodging should all be the same size? Even if, let's say, the restaurants are 10-point font and the bed and breakfast
when
are
you come down to,
12-point?
when you run out of space, you run out of space, you gotta do something.
Well, we're gonna see if it's even possible, because
Yeah.
now we're going from 9 to 11,
Okay,
if we add these,
12.
to equal. So,
There was a time when some of those people weren't even listed because we didn't have room, so we got them on there, and you just gotta do what you can do to make it work, but you may get to that point.
We have to encourage businesses to send information to the Welcome Center. I know like Kate Boyd sent you the stuff for Sparkle when it came up. But
And she's up.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know if the pet store's selling.
Well, and that was one of the questions that I posed, is, do we start looking at businesses and saying this is a tourist-related business? Or is it not a tourist-related business? I don't want to be the one to make that call. I would like the committee to do that. But that is something that should be approached. We don't have Meyer Shoe on the visitor's guide, but they're predominantly a local business. So that would be one example of what wouldn't belong on a visitor's guide as far as stores go. But that would be up to the committee to determine if a business should or should not be listed.
So you basically have 3 sections. With 9, you need to have 3 sections with 4 each.
11. We have 11 total in the 3 sections.
11 divided into 3, you're going to have 4 in each section instead of 3.
Mhm.
Reduce them in that way.
Mhm. And, we were looking at it, and, there are certain parts of the brochure that if we made, these the same size as this, it would fit. So, we'll just have to see what it looks like when it comes back. But I don't know how you tell one business you can't have the same amount of words or picture or anything as somebody else. I think we have to be fair to everyone.
And I think you said one time, it's going to be out of date the day we print it.
Yeah.
It will
Right.
be, mostly with the stores.
Yeah, but that's one of the things we talked about, is maybe updating the online version 3 times a year or something, which you can do. Because that's the one we just updated a couple of
Right.
months ago, is the online version.
And it's already out
Yeah.
of date.
Well, it's going to happen. I mean,
Yeah. Month
businesses
later.
come in and out.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Kelly? Thanks. Laura? you wanna-
Sure. Well, if everyone remembers, last time we talked about ways of possibly increasing small group business, bringing more small groups here to town, overnight groups. And then we asked for brainstorm ideas from all of you. So that's what I passed out before. We compiled all of those. And they're separated out into resources that we currently have available, things that we have in place that groups could utilize. And then there's right underneath that's a list of resources of things that we think we could do fairly easily. And then underneath that are some more long-term, bigger.
We had some suggestions about how to really do some things to increase the number of visitors here, as opposed to just purely things that we can offer to groups. So I think that's why those are added there. It's something to look at down the road.
So we welcome any comments or any additions that you might have to any of these.
I have 2 quick things. One thing that will help is actually being able to advertise to the groups. We were not able to do that in fiscal year 12. The only funding that was approved was through the fiscal year 12 co-op. The city cut us back, and I wasn't able to do it through there. The Tourism Tax Commission didn't approve any group advertising, and the county didn't approve any group advertising. So going into fiscal year 13, I have 3 areas of group advertising that are being covered by the co-op. So that'll be one way that we can go in. I'm also requesting funding to attend the different conventions that they hold throughout the year. So the bank group, the Going on Faith group, that was a really good turnaround for us. We need to have a presence at those. I have not been able to go to those this year because we didn't get the funding. So when we go to sit down with the Board of Aldermen and present the budget, I do have that in as far as this is something that we need to be doing. Because if we can't get this information out, we're spinning our wheels.
Mhm.
So that's the first thing that we really need to get taken care of is the advertising.
So we talked
Oh,
about.
those are the
Yeah.
flyers. Yeah.
So we thought it'd be a good idea to revise the current tour operator flyer with some of these things. and maybe some updated photos and whatnot. And
Was
then,
that, when you look at the photo that's on the front,
I don't think
it's
it really
it's
speaks
a
to
Civil
this.
War photo, and we start off by saying French and German heritage.
And that was actually, I have, the time of year that was going in for the particular event I went to, that fit. But we can interchange
Yeah,
quite easily.
Yeah, I think
anything on
that
there,
needs
but-
to have maybe even multiple pictures. You have multiple pictures on the back. I thought I brought one of those with me, but I can't find it.
We are only allowed to hand out one piece of paper.
That's
We-
what Bob filled me in on,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
so I mean, it would be, but we can pick and choose and
Yeah.
make that anything that we want. It's just a matter of just having it printed.
And I think our committee's committed to helping you do that.
Yeah, with, looking at photographs. But I think if you change that photograph, it might work better with the language.
Oh, and we have. I mean, like I said, that went to an event that, or was a convention that was
That's
very,
right.
it was focused on Civil War and the 150. So that was the reason why we utilized that photo. Other portfolios, we've had other
Okay.
photos. So that, basically what I'm saying, that's easily done.
And you can do that. Do you have that?
I don't, that would be through Kim.
Kim has to do that.
I don't have any Photoshop or Adobe Pro. I only have the Reader.
So if you had the software, would you reduce the dependence on Kim?
Yes.
So it might be just
Worth the
a question of
investment.
where we budget the funds.
That would help.
I think some of these things are great ideas, but do we have the people willing to commit to doing them? In
Some of
order,
these
in order
things-
to advertise for
Some of these
it.
things are already in play. I mean, they're,
Yeah, there's things, we have people that have capabilities for the first list, and some of them we do those things.
I think you're probably talking about the ones that said could be developed.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yes.
something we'd have to work on to see if we can
Yeah.
find people in the community that'll do, I mean, we had murder mysteries at once.
Uh-huh.
I think Le Coquerel bought the rights to Rob's murder mysteries. Lady Marie was offering them for a while.
I still get phone calls about
Yeah.
murder mysteries.
Because I
Yeah,
think the
I do
ghost
too.
tour would bring a lot of people in
Ghost
too.
tour, I mean, and there was a
And
gal that
actually-
was working on,
Well, but there's another one also, she's wanting to go, she wants to do one in the cemetery, and I said they would have to contact the preservation on that. But through the streets, Sarah Drost actually, it's a friend of hers, who's wanting to put together a walking ghost tour, and then maybe something in the cemetery. But that's a hot area of tourism,
Mhm.
as is agritourism.
We have Steiger House's old phone number at the cafe, and probably twice a week I get a call about murder mysteries.
it's just, it's gonna take some work, and we're gonna have to
Right.
find people that can do it, and if you advertise even some of the things we have now, it may not work out for that particular night, because we only have one guy that gives organ concerts.
Mhm.
Right.
That sort of thing, but,
Yeah, but we have to do something in the evenings for these people that come
Yeah.
here.
I would say more focus in the immediate would be looking at evening type activities. And, filling it out, like for the movies. Movies is a great idea.
Mhm.
I thought you could use the Oris as a venue for that, or if we could get one of those big outdoor blow-up
Outdoor,
ones.
yeah.
Or put a sheet on the side of one of our big buildings.
We did that with the tour of Missouri. We put it on the side of the Show Me Shop and showed a movie, and the entire hotel parking lot was full of people.
Not
It
cars.
was neat.
No, yeah, it was nice.
Mhm.
And we just hung a big,
screen.
big white sheet on the side of your building. And we
That's right.
used the school district's
I don't want to discourage the conversation.
equipment, so.
When it's cooler outside.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll use ours now.
Yeah, 90 degrees at 8 o'clock is not a pleasant feeling.
Well, but you have to take into account that Oris can only hold 240 people comfortably.
Right.
And that's without using the upstairs. It's about
yeah. Again,
220.
we're really focused, we're talking about groups of 10 to 40 here.
Yeah, just mainly
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
coming for
we are
lodging
not
that want
talking
something to do
about
in the
big groups.
evening.
No, yeah, because we don't have the accommodations
No.
for large groups.
Yeah, just something for them to do.
well, in any case, I think our recommendation would be great if you can get the funding next year, and then in tandem, if we can revise our sheets and include some of these things, and maybe start developing some of these underdeveloped ideas.
Yeah. One of the things on the backside, we were talking about the flyers. We have the one that Steph hands out at group tour conventions. But we think there ought to be one that we could send to small groups that could possibly come and do, we've had the Farmers Union, we had the Folklore Society, there was a women's club, the State Park Board's going to be here in the end of September. Give them something that maybe we can make their visit a little better. And so we thought about, we need a flyer, a one-page flyer we could send if somebody's interested, or we go out and we market groups to get them in here, small ones. We haven't done that a lot yet.
We haven't had access. A lot of the groups that we've had to this point, with the exception of like the Park Service, has been as a result of advertising and access we did 2 years ago. This last year, we don't have memberships to any of the group organizations, where the nice thing about having those memberships is you have access to the lists of people who are members, and you can, focus in and send and find out who the right person it is to send. If you're just sending it to no one in particular, it might get put into the trash. But, that's just something that we haven't been able to do this past year.
And I think there's other groups that may not even be associated with those kind of groups that we could market to get in here too. There's a lot of people that could come and do conventions here, small meetings and conventions. And if we look in the past, we've had them.
Right.
And we got to.
At least ones. I only
No,
know
I'm
ones.
talking 20, 30 years
Okay,
ago.
yeah, no, I don't
We had big conventions here.
Wait.
Yeah.
We're going to have the Lions District Convention here in February.
That's the thing that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
maybe 45, 60 people.
Those are the kind we need. Those are good kind of groups. We need to see if we can work
Need
with.
to know about, so that we can do something with
Well,
it.
that's what this second
Just
one
decided this
is kind of far, that we can send stuff out to them that says, look, if you want to not only just do your convention, but we can organize some other things around your visit, or if you have, like I go to an annual meeting at my university, and they have a thing for the spouses that aren't in the meeting, and organize something like a little walking tour, or they do antique malls or teas and stuff like that, that might entice them to come.
We employed that with the women's group that came in, the St. Genevieve Women's Club. We did the candlelight tour and had the horse and trolley come in.
That was
We
one
had a
thing we didn't
group
have
at
on
the
there.
cafe a couple months ago. It was just about a dozen people from a church in Bridgeton, over 50, single women and a couple of men, that just go on outings like once a month or something. So it wasn't really an organized group, other than the fact that they were all from the same church and all single over 50. But I don't know if there's a way to target those kinds of
Red
groups
Hat
too,
lady
if they're not.
groups. They don't,
Well, I
maybe
mean,
not
they
spend
don't
the
spend
money. I
money.
know, but they don't spend money.
They don't spend money. They don't. Bird watchers don't either. They're usually, what can we see for free? It just is what it is.
Yep.
Then, that is great. I love these ideas. I'm completely for them.
I don't even know if there's a way to figure out who to send those types of things to.
Right, well,
you
that
know?
would be, one thing is, I don't think I have, I know I don't have the staff and the time to go around and look for things that aren't easily within membership. And I think I need to add more money to my printing and my postage line if we want to be aggressive in that manner, because I know I did not ask for enough.
We're talking about one-pagers here on this that could even be Xeroxed.
Right, but I'm going to use 3,000 this year. I think I requested 3,000 postage for next year. So this would be on top of what we're already doing. So, that will come time when I sit down.
One of the things, there was one of the organizations I belong to is having their annual meeting in Bloomington, Indiana, and they sent the invitation, and along with it, they sent the whole booklet. Now, when we look at even sending our our visitor guide, that probably would cost extra postage, and that's why we talked about one page, 8.5 by 11, that we could send to them. But people are doing that. They're giving out information to, when your groups come into town, there's other things to do. And that's what we were really trying to get to with that second thing.
Right,
Yeah.
we have a packet, and we do send information. When I know about the groups, we're all over them. But, do I have time to sit around and look for groups that aren't memberships of anything? I'm absolutely for this. I am not arguing against it. All I'm saying is that I need to ask for more money, which I will do when I have my budget meeting.
Yeah, a lot of your organizations would probably take care of sending that out if they had it.
Yeah.
We would.
Well, that's one of the third things that we talked about. We have, the school has the band concerts, the volleyball concerts. Now, those people don't always stay overnight, but can we send them a one-pager that lists all the restaurants, the shops, a map that goes with the packet? If when the school sends it out I like when they had the band concert, they had 20-some schools come in. Not everybody, and it's just something that they could use that says, okay, when we come to St. Diego, let them Xerox it with all their people if they want, but at least it's something in their hands. But we're going to have to get
Can we
them.
fit all,
I'll
can we
bet you-
do this on one page?
I'll bet you we can, on front and back, I bet you we can with a map.
Yeah,
With the map?
Just a list.
Why can't we send them, just send them that? Would it cost too much?
Well, we want something they can Xerox so that they can give it to all
Oh,
their
they
people.
can do it, okay.
And that's something we're.
There's also something we can email, the printable, the
Yeah.
downloadable guide.
Yeah.
And that way they can just print it and it's not gonna cost us any postage. It's just gonna be a matter of will the school print it and forward that on.
Yeah. Well, we'd like to try to put something together that they could hand out or give to when they send out invitations to events. Because people, when you go to a high school event, those usually aren't all day long. Or they are, when they're all day long, you're not there watching your kid the whole time.
The whole time, right, but one thing to keep in mind with that though, the school groups, they were bickering over having to pay an extra $1.50 to see a house. You know, when we just kind of keep that in mind, if you send it out for them thinking that they're gonna print and send it on, the likelihood is they're probably not. If they're gonna nitpick over $1.50 for a house tour, the likelihood that they're gonna want to print and send it out. It's just as easy
Well,
to
there's-
have the visitor guide sent out. That's all I'm saying. I'm wanting to get them the information, but in a way that they'll actually get it.
We'll have some more conversations on this, I guess.
Okay.
Anything else, Tom?
I think that's all.
Okay, anything from the resource committee?
We're trying to put a meeting together for Tuesday night, and maybe if you're available, you
Tomorrow
want
night?
to get
Next
moving
week?
up Tuesday,
Tomorrow or next Tuesday?
oh, a week,
Or,
next Tuesday.
okay, yeah.
It is Monday, isn't it? Week from Tuesday.
Okay, yeah, I should be here. Anything else? One thing, there's been a committee working under the auspices of Alderman Ross and Martin on tourism signage. We did a survey of all the tourism visitor-related signage around town, and we got mismatches of all different kinds of things. We have welcome centers, tourist information centers. It's been just evolving over time, and
When Bob says we, he means he.
I just took pictures of the signs. But we sat down and we talked about what kind of signs would we want and where would we place them, and we came up with a sign. It's going to look like this. And they'll be at major intersections, and the arrows change depending on which intersection and which way you're going. And they'll be mounted on a post, and will be, the city got a grant from the Community Foundation to buy these signs and to make or fabricate 2 kiosks, basically signboards behind glass. One will be located near the courthouse square, and the other one down at the Main Street Park, which will also give us a chance to give visitors more information as they go along. So I think that's, and we had, also on that committee was Diane Wilson and Frank Rolfe. And Frank had went out and looked at a bunch of signs at different places in St. Charles and Lindenwood and everything. And that's how we kind of came up with this configuration. So I guess the next thing is going out for bids and that sort of thing to get that accomplished.
What will be on the kiosk?
Kind of one of the you are here kind of things, maybe an expanded map and there'll be some room if we want to put a little flyer on there. This is not one of those you stick it on kind of things. This will be under glass and under the control of the Welcome Center.
Changeable?
Yeah, I mean, you can change things, yeah.
But we're not going to use it as a message board. I mean, it won't be something that you change the information on a daily or weekly basis, maybe even monthly. It may just be a quarterly change for events. But,
I thought it was strictly going to be a map. Are we going to have events on it now?
well, we're going to have a space where we can put things.
Okay.
It would be good to think like upcoming events for the year, signature events kind of thing. People might want to see something like that when they're looking at that, because it might want to come back some other time.
Okay.
The other thing that I've been working on with the city is to set addresses for certain sites. Some websites, when you do free advertising, ask for a specific address. And like the cemetery, we always just call Memorial Cemeteries, 5th and Merchant. Well, that's not a specific address. So the city's been working with establishing addresses for anything from the Main Street Park, because like when we have the bike races there, that's where they start. You can put in, people Google or MapQuest where they're going. You put in the street address and it takes you right there. Anything from like the ball fields, when they have some of these tournaments, Yanks Field, Leon's Field, the park. There's just a list of things that they're working on getting addresses for that we can use in advertising and being specific. Lions Club Park, for instance, where you could just specify it and people can, my kids live on their phone when they're going to a restaurant or whatever.
Yeah, you do.
Certified grounds.
I was going to say that.
Jurda Fit Grounds, I think, has one,
What
they
is
told
it?
me.
Deal
But we're going to have
box?
to post some of those too. Yeah.
Is that at your house?
That he can't put that in.
So I think they're still working with the 911 people to get that all set up, but that's something that we'll have a list later on that we can use when we advertise.
If that's it.
Your little building next to it's 185.
Yeah, I think it's-
Okay,
Bob, you,
I gotta look on the insurance policy.
you might consider, as an adjunct to what you just said, depending on, I don't want to clutter up a print brochure or anything like that, but a lot of these people, use the GPS coordinates down to the second. I mean, I've got it on the side of my microwave oven, so anybody that's on our phone can tell, a guest, because we get that.
I'm just starting to get to the smartphone. No, I know, you're right. I mean, and that's probably going to come down the road.
I mean, that is on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Degrees, minutes, and seconds.
Oh, yeah.
I was laughing
Punch it
about,
into your
even in
phone.
the cemetery, we talked about doing GPSing on
Yeah.
tombstones, so when visitors come, they can go right to the
I
tombstone.
trust you, my phone won't do that.
We're still good with
If you
that.
are just a second off, they will come in and let you know.
Yes,
Just saying from experience.
yep.
Mhm.
Yep, that happened to us too. But we probably get 2 geocachers a week
Mhm.
at the Giebler House.
I'm surprised they're usually, it's very secretive.
I usually get an email with that.
Okay, yeah, that,
Yep.
we've had a few come in because ours has been stolen and I haven't been able to replace it. So we've had to take ours offline, but.
We're having trouble hearing what you're saying back there. We have several, what, a week?
Geocaching.
Geocachers,
Geocache.
Yeah.
that is a whole.
And what was taken?
The
cache.
geocache at the Welcome Center, we were having issues with youth
Mm-hmm.
and it disappeared and I just haven't been able to replace it yet.
I think we ended up with all your magnets and pencils at our place somehow.
No, I am sure you did. They have littered everywhere.
All over.
Mhm. Unfortunately.
Okay. Any other new business?
I have a question, Bob. I read on, I think sometimes news minutes or county commission minutes, that you guys are working on the 200-year celebration for October 1st. Do you have any update on that?
We're still working on that. We're planning to have on Saturday, we're going to do a little Civil War reenactment of the troops taking over the courthouse and a few other things for that Saturday, and may have some horse-drawn rides. But the real celebration is going to be on Monday, morning, October 1st. It is the 200th anniversary. We'll have a thing at the courthouse. We've invited a number of politicians to come. Dignitaries. And Mayor Grimminger,
I went to the last half of the park board.
Okay.
You'll have like some information that we could maybe hand out to
Yeah,
people if they
we're trying to
ask.
get pretty close to that. We're going to probably plant a memorial tree, plant
Don't put it anywhere near a sidewalk.
a time capsule. Probably there'll be an open house in the courthouse where people can go through, and we're trying to get each department to put out some of their antiquities. And then maybe do a slideshow on the history of the county, sort of thing.
Just to clarify, it's the 200th anniversary celebration of?
The naming of the formation of St. Genevieve County.
Okay.
County, October 1, 1812. We were a district before that, but that was the official designation. It was a chance to party.
And then also, Chad, I just wanted to say that sometimes we never realize the kind of people that are coming into our community. My daughter and a couple of her friends were selling some raffle tickets at Overly Meats about a month ago for some Cardinal tickets, like a box, I don't know, box of 4 or whatever. And this lady had come in and said, "Oh, well, what's your raffle for?" And they said, "Well, we're trying to raise money for our basketball camp for next year." And she said, "Well, I don't want to take a chance because I live in California, but I'll definitely make a donation." So they thought she's going to give like $25 or so. And she wrote him a $500 check. And it was Albert Pujols' wife. Her son was in the River Dogs tournament.
Yeah, we knew she was here.
Yeah. And she bought over like $500 worth of meat and had it sent out to California because whenever she has a chance to come back to Missouri, Oberly Meats is one of her places that she loves to go.
It's a great story.
So I thought it was really interesting because I think they were starstruck at first because, you know, they're 15 years old and they're like, "You're who?" kind of thing. And so it was actually amazing. So it just goes to show you that sometimes we never realize the kind of people that do visit our community. So
It's a great story.
when they were done, they all went out to Zell Ball Field and watched her son play, you know, to kind of say thank you.
Is he any good?
Actually, John Linder, I don't know if you know Bud Linder from county, his grandson struck him out twice. So,
Still learning.
still learning.
Cancel that check.
Nope, she didn't actually, so, but it was very nice, and those girls raised over $2,500 for their camp for next year, so, yeah, kind of impressive. It's cool.
It's like one time in business, we've always had marketing people that went out and talked to the customer. And we've spent a lot of time teaching everybody that talks to the customer is marketing and selling. Everybody. When you meet someone on the street, when you're being a hostess in a restaurant, we are marketing.
We have a lot of customers that come in and say, "Everybody's so nice here," which, I mean, everybody is so nice, and I think that's one of the things that
You know what I'm
is
saying?
really great.
Just haven't met everybody yet.
No, you
You
just
haven't met
smile
our-
and say thank you.
Okay. Any other new business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
What about citizens to be heard?
That's going to be afterwards.
Oh, after we adjourn, sorry.
Motion.
Tina, take a second.
Second.
Second, Jan. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. I'll entertain any citizens that would like to be heard.
Just wanted to be here.
I just want to be here.
Okay. Ms. Parker, we're glad that you're here, and we're glad you have an interest in St. Genevieve and what the heck goes on here.
Just in case you said something I didn't like, then I spoke.
I'm sure you would.
But everything that I understood was fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you all have a nice evening. Be careful in the heat out there.